Do you guys think I was frozen? Do you think
No.
do you think my internet fucking crapped out there? Check this one out.
No, your tongue is moving.
Fuck,
Don't.
It sucks.
Now you're doing snake mouth.
It sucks that whenever I'm not talking, I flick my tongue out of my mouth rapidly like a snake.
That's what you're doing. You're like, oh, do I look frozen?
Well, I thought maybe I've frozen a time loop or something.
Oh my God. What is that move? Is that like a Red Hot Chili Pepper thing?
It is probably the most disgusting move a human being can make.
Yeah.
This move?
Yeah, I feel like that vibe is back.
Yeah. Oh,
which
yeah.
is no one knows what we just did because I forgot this is an audio recording.
No, they know. They can hear. They can understand. They hear this. They know exactly. They know exactly where my fingers are. They know exactly what my tongue is doing. Everybody knows. Doing that from the side of your car at people walking down the street is back.
Yeah, that is very back.
It is back. We are.
If you could somehow do that in a like Shrek costume,
oh
man,
my God,
you are fucking talk about Johns.
I've learned. What?
Hey now, yo. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Come in.
Who's getting Jaundice out there? Jaundice?
Jaundice?
Who out there
What
listens
is
to
John
this
Dice? What is that? That's like a name of a court, like a
Dice?
judge.
That's a
John
pretty good
Dice.
name.
Justice
actually-
John Dice.
Yeah, I gotta say that's a.
I went to
good
John
name.
Dice University.
Who out there? If I see some motherfucker with yellow eyes on the street,
They're an alcoholic.
My ass is booking it the other direction. What are you, a monster?
Well, if they're a
Jesus.
baby, they got to be put in an incubator.
Really? I don't really
Yeah,
get what
that happened
jaundice
to me
is.
when I was a baby.
Wait,
I had
both
jaundice.
of you both of you had jaundice as
we're
babies?
both little egg babies.
So you came out of that fucking thing. Well, no, I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
Let me rephrase that way more
Yeah,
respectfully.
wow.
So
Please.
the miracle of your birth happened, and your mom
Happened.
looks
I like this. What do you mean it happened?
passive voice.
Yeah,
It's
who's
passive
yeah.
voice?
Any subject there?
So these beautiful little angels, or so they think, come crawling out like a damn little worm out of there, and your mother, thrilled at this miracle, looks down and looking up at her are just beady yellow eyes of a snake.
No. Everything else is yellow too.
Oh, really? You come out fully yellow.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I gotta look up Jaundice, baby. That's fucking crazy. Dude, if that happened to me, I see one of my wives pull one of that thing out, and it's fucking...
All right.
like-
well, none of this is happening until you learn a more respectful way to refer to the miracle of birth. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Liz.
My name is Mr. Baby Formula. Ooh, that's a gross one. And we
What?
have with us today, as our guest producer, Young Chomsky, Mr. Baby Formula. Fuck, dude.
Why did
God.
you do that?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
That was the little guy. Oops. Ooh, hey.
Wait, so but do you subsist on baby formula? Or are you giving baby formula? Or are you a formula baby?
What's baby formula?
Oh my god.
No, I have a formula for turning myself into just a widow baby. And oh, my diaper's wet. Oh no, I need someone to change it for me. Did we ever do an episode? This is, by the way,
No,
listeners.
you have tried. Look, no, I'm not even going to let you finish this. You have tried for about a year and a half. Look, the podcast isn't even 3 years old yet, and it's been over 75% of the time that we've had this podcast. Brace has been trying to get me to do an adult baby diaper lover episode. Is that what it's called?
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, ABDL.
The
That's
podcast
right.
isn't 3 years old. Oh, neither am I. Mr. Baby Formula. Such a fuck. I gotta work on my baby voice because that's just me doing a high voice. By the way, okay. So
I have to say,
about.
wait, by the way, I want to say.
You just double, by the way.
I don't know if you did that because your video and your internet cut out, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But I feel like if we were to ever do that episode, which we will never will, stop sucking your thumb.
No, I'm sorry. I'm in my safe space right now.
That
what's his reaction?
It would have to combine your fantastic work, the leaps and bounds that you've made in accent work and British accent work. Because in my head, all the people involved in this little, I don't know what it is, fetish scene, whatever it is, are British. Like this is this is very much a British subculture.
Where's me nanny? Where's me nanny? Yeah, I mean, listen, I've watched probably 10,000 hours of adult baby diaper lover. I've never actually watched any like the sexy stuff they do. I've only watched their clean material, like their TikToks and their YouTube videos and shit. That shit, I gotta be real with you. If you're listening to this and you're into that shit freaks me out. Don't like DM me and be like, I'm into this and I'm normal. I don't want to know about it. But we just need for one of them to like kill somebody so we can do an episode on it. like the problem is that I'm sure that one has, but we need like we need a hook.
There's going to be a head of some progressive British NGO that actually does, and then we'll be able to do it. Yes,
100%. Or like we'll find out that like some older gentleman with a political office is like, he's like, yeah, but if you're old, you can kind of just be an adult diaper lover.
What percentage of sitting U.S. politicians are wearing diapers for fetish reasons and not age reasons, do you think?
That's a good motherfucking question. I will go up and say 100. I mean, Dianne Feinstein shitting herself.
No,
daily,
but that's
right?
that's age reason. I'm saying. I mean, for like
for pleasure.
Yeah, for TikTok posting reasons.
I'll say 10%. I'm gonna say Ro Khanna's in a diaper. He's him. I'm gonna say. What are some women? I'm gonna say who's Margaret lady, the fucking who's a freaky deaky lady everyone's always mad at. She looks all fucked up. She talks all fucked up. This isn't her, but Lauren Boebert. I think she's in a diaper there because she's like a swinger, I believe, or maybe the other freaky lady is a swinger. My question is, how many are furries?
Sorry, your audio keeps cutting out with your video, and so it just was like paused for a really. No, it's not that; it's the internet. But so it just paused for a long time, and then it just cut to you going furries.
Yes.
So I have no idea what you said, but let's just go with it.
All right, I shifted my computer 2 inches to the left, so hopefully that I'll be getting. Is this Young Chomsky? Give me a nod or a what's the other one? A shake. There needs to be another pithy or short word for when you anti-nod. Give me like an anti-nod or a regular nod if me closing other windows on my computer will make my internet better. He's delaying. He's giving me a shrug. Okay, third option there. Because I have about 500 gigs of ADBDL videos going.
ADBL? Wait, ADBDL?
I think I did that wrong. Adult.
It sounds like a civil rights litigation organization.
And you know what? It should be. It should be. Because let me tell you this, you try to get on a bus with a diaper, even though lots of people wear a lot skimpier clothing than that. Lots of people just wear a loincloth. Some people just wear a fucking thong out, a bikini. But I try to get on the bus wearing my shit, fucking cozy.
These people wear them. These people, they wear them under clothes, right? They're not.
But do babies? I don't think so. So these.
I don't know. The last time you saw a baby, they absolutely do.
They don't wear clothes, dude. Do they?
What, babies?
They're like a little man.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So as you can maybe tell from the audio, although I think for somehow we've been playing it off pretty well, my internet is going in and out now because I'm in a sex worker hotel. You
are. Now, for our listeners who didn't listen to the last episode, Brace is missing. He's not missing. I know where he is. Or do I? But he's on the lam. You're not, you're somewhere far, far away.
Yeah, I'm out. So as many people know, there's a high-profile trial happening involving two people that I was pretty close to at one point. And some footage emerged of me having an threesome involved in this trial. And okay, I don't know where I was going with that, but I do think it's really funny to describe having sex with a bunch of guys as like an threesome. But anyway, so yeah, I as a lot of people know that I dated someone who's involved in some pretty high profile litigation right now on the East Coast. I was in a throuple type situation with her and somebody who also dated Grimes, so it's sort of like a love square thing.
I gotta say, so I have not been paying attention to that trial because I don't know, it like annoys me, and I don't want to look at their. They both have like also like puffy weird faces. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, there's something unseemly about the way that people are paying attention.
Something unseemly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. It's it sucks because I wish I could get into it, and yet the whole thing just makes me feel icky and gross, and I don't want a part of it. You know what it is? I'll tell you, this is what it is. It's because, I mean, look, I haven't been paying attention to the details, but I'm going to go ahead and say they're both guilty. That seems like a totally like disaster, toxic, like just so many levels of just awfulness and abuse on both parts to each other, like physical, mental, all that, just horrible, emotional. But it feels like now you're dragging us into it with this trial. Like suddenly now everyone else is another sort of abusive, toxic party to your like weird, toxic relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even the trial itself is like a form of abuse to one another. Like they're involving all this like litigation and stuff, and this thing that they can't extract each other. Like they can't extract themselves from each other because they're still caught in these like cycles of abuse or whatever.
Yes.
I sound like a fucking Instagram infographic right now, but that's okay. Just hang with me. But so it's like they're dragging us into it, and I gotta say, it's like I'm not gonna have a part in that. You're not pulling me in. I'm not gonna be a part of this like you want me to. Like, you know, settle your business. Get me out of it. I don't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, and like I'm sorry. If you're at the point in the relationship, you're shitting in the bed, you're cutting off each other's fingers, you're fucking and sucking in weird it's like, I don't want to know about this. I mean, I do think it's crazy. The one thing that I've read about it is that the ACLU pitched the like op-ed that this is all circled around to Amber Heard for if she would donate $3.5 million to them. And I gotta say, the ACLU, there's some whackajacks over there.
Well, first of all, okay, one, why does the ACLU think that Amber Heard has $3.5 million to donate to the ACLU?
Yeah.
Two, why is the ACLU pitching all this and getting involved? Like,
yeah, like I'm like,
what? I mean, that organization is a little woo, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
There's something. That's what I'm saying. I think there's just something weird about all of this, and like the social media push. It's like very clearly like the algorithm has been gamed by so many people to like get like these little like snippets of like Johnny Depp laughs at the lawyer or whatever. Are you kidding? That is how are people? He is the corniest human being to ever exist.
Look, I'm going to repeat what I've always said about Johnny Depp. And I think I've said it on the podcast before, but I'm going to repeat it because I think it was a while ago, which is that Johnny Depp is a hair actor. He just puts on different wigs and then acts like the hair. That's all he is.
Interesting. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
So perhaps for the trial, what he needs to do is find the wig of an innocent person. And maybe he would have, better luck.
No, well, the problem with wigs, Liz, check this out. This sounds like a bromide. A bromide. The problem with putting on wigs sometimes, Liz, is a wig could be snatched, but real hair can't.
That does sound like whatever you wanted it to sound like.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Anyway, leave me out of it. I want no part.
So you'll be called to the stand in several days when, unfortunately, I'm forced to take the stand as the third member of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard triumvirate.
I like the idea of that's why you're out of the country. So to be clear, because we've been talking around this, Brace is out of the country. He's in unnamed location,
Second location.
Poland. You could be in
Yeah.
Poland.
Well, the internet isn't that bad.
Oh my god.
No, I'm in. So you know China?
Heard of it?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here to solve it.
To solve it?
Yeah.
What's the problem?
You know, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Oh my God. Wait.
I'm not trying to. I have COVID, right? And I can mask it really well, and I got all these fake tests, and I flew into Shanghai, and they ended up giving me a test at a checkpoint, and everybody loses their minds. So I've been in Shanghai for about 40 days now, and I caused a big whoopsie here. There is, I gotta say,
The old brace, my bad.
Mea culpable. I did bring a very virulent and deadly strain of the COVID-19 virus of the flu to Shanghai, China, causing them to shut down many of every apartment building in the city I am in. And I got to tell you, did not mean to do that, and I accept responsibility. No, I'm not in China. I am in a different country, which is called Africa.
All right, so we're being cute. We're not going to say where Brace is because
All will be
it's-
revealed.
It's kind of fun. Don't tell them
Yeah.
that. They get nothing.
They
You
get
get what you
nothing.
get when you get it.
Well, it'll help explain any kind of gaps in our schedule, but you'll figure it out. No, we're talking about, unfortunately, even though I'm in another foreign country, unfortunately, I have to talk about a different foreign country. That's right. We are talking about the country that is made up solely of people named Philippe, and that would be the Philippines. You didn't like that? You're smiling though. That's a little piece of advice there, fellas. If you ever want to make a woman smile, just keep talking, and eventually she will.
Oh my God. I don't think that's right.
That's a really good advice there.
I think that's really bad advice.
Especially if she's frowning. If
Oh
you
my
just
God.
if you just don't just never stop talking, those little cheeks will creep up. The dimples will appear, and you know what
All right.
happens when you see a dimple? You pour the water into it and you take a swim.
Okay. Well, no. Brace is right. We were talking about the Philippines election today because it happened not today, but just a couple days ago. And bam, just like we said, BBM, BongBong Marcos, Marcos Jr., son of famed dictator Marcos Sr. Anyway, he won in basically a total landslide. I mean, just flat out victory, knocked it out of the park.
He made trying to do a comparison to American politics. He made Donald Trump look like Stacey Abrams. Does that work? No?
Yeah, but in my head, I just went to the GIF that goes, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, I would like to see that. I would
see that.
I would pay probably $100,000 to see Stacey Abrams and Donald Trump have sex. That would be fucking crazy. Could you imagine that shit? Jesus
Just see him
Christ.
in conversation.
Oh my
I
god!
remember my idea for like celebrity deathmatch, but it was with Taleb and Nicole Hannah Jones.
Yeah, that'd be so good. Yeah, dude, to see them have sex,
Intellectual?
too?
No, it's a debate show, not sex show.
Okay. Well, if they need to have sex, they can use this hotel room. So, Liz, BBM won the fuck out of this election.
I hate calling him that. I'm sorry.
I
I
know.
just call him Bong Bong. I keep thinking that it's it's a BBL. Like I keep thinking that
That's
we're
what you're
talking
thinking.
about BBLs.
Interesting. I'm thinking of big beautiful man.
Okay.
Honestly, because do you know what a BB? No, we don't need to go into that actually. But yeah, he is. I gotta tell you, have you seen this guy?
Bong Bong?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
pictures of him.
Yeah.
Probably the most boring looking human being in history.
Yeah. He looks like a empty plate at breakfast.
Yes, and for those of you who listen to this podcast regularly, like you should, we did an interview with a guy named Bonnie Ilagan. I don't know how long. I'm 14 days ahead of Liz right now.
Yeah.
Just in terms of time zones. So it's actually it's the 25th for me.
Well, when you're that close to the Earth's core, it's actually
Yeah.
you're on a totally different time wave. So this podcast, as we're recording, I think it's been for you in like Earth core years, 25 years. But for me, we're only running on 20 minutes here.
Don't worry, ladies. I am trying to get you your baby formula. It's all down here. I'm gonna, and
What does that even mean?
And what was my name? Baby formula. Baby formula is gonna find it for you. So Ferdinand Marcos won by, I don't have the percents in front of me right here, but I think he won by over 15 million votes to his next competitor, and it's pretty extraordinary for a number of reasons. Number one being that the Marcoses, I think, are fairly famous to maybe a generation above millennial. What's the next one? Gen X?
Boomers?
I think Gen X people. Yeah, Gen X people are probably familiar with them, especially Melda Marcos. There's recently a pretty well-known movie. I don't know if that's the way to phrase that, but there was recently a movie that made a lot of waves called The Kingmaker about her. But the family was pretty famous for being this sort of like decadent dictatorship in the Philippines until they were from 1965 to 1986. There was about 12 years of martial law. I think it was 12 years till 81, which of course Bonnie was a victim of. They looted the country tens of billions of dollars, or $10 billion, and they were basically kicked out in a for popular revolution in 1986, and then returned 5 years later.
Yeah, they were flown out by the U.S. The U.S. basically said, "All right, fine.
Yeah,
We'll get, all right, we'll end our support of you, but here, let's get you a ride on Air Force One to." It wasn't actually Air Force One, but basically Air Force One to Hawaii, just right over there,
Well,
and they lived in exile for quite some time.
Yes, they. Here's the thing. Anybody ever does a martial law, you just got to introduce them to the aloha lifestyle, baby. Papa lay over the neck. You're talking. Oh, you're a colonel in Greece. You're doing martial law? No, brother. Well, Greece, I'm like, you're already at the island, so I don't even know what you'd be mad about. But yeah. So his family was over there for about 5 years. Marcos Sr. died, I think, about 3 years after they were flown out into exile. But none of the money was ever returned. There was a big court case, which I think we covered at the end of the Bonnie episode.
Yeah, they got like about 3.6 or 3.4, I don't have it in front of me, billion back. But they say there's at least 2.5 still out there that they claim is all in condos and land and paintings, and they're trying to get it back. But of course, the Marcos family has hid it very well.
Yeah, and to be clear, this is the Filipino people's money, and I think it was really egregiously irresponsible to put it all in Luna coin. I mean, that is just extraordinary. But basically, the family is fabulously wealthy, and when they returned, I actually learned this tidbit recently from a book I was reading. Imelda Marcos actually ran for president of the Philippines in '93, and BongBong didn't endorse her. He endorsed a different guy.
Because that's how toxic it was to at that point to be kind of seen with the Marcos family, and yet how the tables have turned.
Yes, and so
now, 20 years later, insanely popular dude, and also not in spite of his name, but because of his name.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible because like when I told my dad, I don't know, a couple months ago that Ferdinand Marcos Jr. was running for the Philippines. It was favorite to win. He was like the son of Marcos, and indeed the son of Marcos. The crazy thing is it's like, all right, well, familiar names. People like familiar names. That's we elected Hillary Clinton after Bill Clinton, George Bush, after George H.W. Bush. And the Filipino voters have followed in our footsteps by also electing Sara Duterte as vice president.
Yeah, funny enough, no, she won in an even bigger margin than BongBong did.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they have to, they elect both president and vice president. They run kind of separately. And so you vote for different candidates, although they had run on a kind of unity ticket together, though you kind of, when you vote for them separately. So she won by a massive, massive margin, which is very interesting. She's an interesting lady. You said she's Duterte's daughter. It's funny because Duterte had said that he was going to run for vice president. Mm-hmm. And when that sort of was proving to be very like an unpopular idea, like even with how popular the Dutertes remain, everyone was like, I don't think you should do that. I don't think this is a good idea. He was like, oh, yeah. fine. And then the daughter ran.
Get my old fucking cow daughter up there. I mean, that's the thing. I'm not going to mince words here. Sara Duterte, let me just say, she's a BB and then switch that M around.
Oh, my God.
And I say that not to be, I mean, you know me, I love women. Let's just leave it at that. But when she was mayor of Davao City, which I think is like one of the big, I know it is. It's one of the biggest cities in the Philippines, but I don't remember if it's the second or third. Much like her father, she became mayor after him. She actually, I was told this by Vince Stevens. She used the official mayoral Instagram account, or she had like another one that was like connected to it to just post like "big girls have more fun" memes, which is, I mean, you gotta say like how horrible and repressive and like death squad filled the Duterte family is. They're funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she has, she sort of first gained a lot of notoriety, I think internationally, because there's a viral video of her punching a guy that came out. A sheriff, actually, which is crazy because usually you can just take their fucking gun.
Imagine, like, I'm trying to think of, like, in our country, like, imagine, like, Ivanka Trump, just, like, a video of her punching a dude going viral. She probably would get elected on that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I'm actually struggling to think. I remember there was some like congressman from Montana, I believe, who punched a Guardian reporter. And who like complained about it, of course, on Twitter. And I gotta say, there has been like very little like punching in our government. I think
it's been a minute. I feel like punching and kind of like slapstick, like the verge where slapstick turns violent, that fine line.
Oh yeah.
That's a big early aughts vibe, which means it's coming back since everything from the aughts is coming back. So get ready for it.
I think history diverged when that guy threw the shoe at George Bush. And it's like, if that had connected, we would have gone down a line where things were normalized and we could do things like that.
They call that the shoe effect.
Yes, exactly. And instead we went down like the weird glitter bomb route where it's like, but I got to say, like, one thing that politicians, and if you should learn this is a TrueAnon rule. You ever want to get your shit up in the popularity a little bit? Throw out a couple socks. Hit somebody. You're running for city council?
Yeah, I don't know. Be careful.
Punch a judge. You're all good. You can't. It's not illegal. Judges, it's like DC. There's like special rules.
Now, Brace, I have a question for you because you're up on this stuff a bit more than I am. So Sarah, okay, this is what I was reading about, was that basically, so, anyone who's kind of followed a little bit of the Philippines, political situation with Duterte would know that like the U.S. and Duterte have kind of a let's say frenemy relationship. That he was, pretty, I'd say like, I don't know, aggressive towards the U.S. or, very like, we're going to shut down some of these old trade deals. We're going to shut down some of these old military deals. And we're actually going to, chill. Maybe we're going to chill with China. Maybe we're going to go hang out with that guy. Maybe we're going to go be more friends with them. And, there were big development deals that the Philippines made with China. In particular, I think there was like some big bridge that they were building that was supposed to be a big, I don't know if it's even finished yet, but, there's a big sign on the bridge that says like China aid for shared future with like, both their flags. And it's supposed to be this big symbolic thing. And it kind of pissed the U.S. off because our American listeners would know we've been in a pivot to Asia for quite some time.
Oh yeah.
But my understanding is that Sara Duterte has been a lot more friendly with the U.S. She was actually like she's visited the U.S. on some kind of like leadership program, which is always I love that term, the U.S. leadership program. And
we
then
love
boom,
leadership programs.
yeah, the daughter of the current strongman president in an American leadership program in 2020. Love to hear it. We love to see it. But I'm curious if that, this is maybe a harbinger of better relations with the U.S. What do you think?
Well, it's interesting because, all right, I feel like the pivot to Asia, actually, let's spend the rest of the episode talking about if Russians are Asian. Do you want to okay, no? All right, we're not going to. So, I mean, I
well,
feel
the
like
thing about the pivot, right? If you know anything about how pivots work, it's that you can go whoop, whoop. You
Yeah,
pivot once
that's true.
and then pivot back. So
Yeah.
if you're pivoting to Asia, you're pivoting from a point that you can pivot back to. So
Exactly.
With the proximity, you can kind of be like Russia, pivot Asia, Russia, pivot Asia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a pivot.
You're like, hold
Just
up,
don't
China.
lift that foot. That's a trouble.
You're like, hold up. I got to give 1 second, China. I got to give $40 billion to Ukraine. Can you just like do some lockdowns or something so you don't do anything funky? So that is sort of been a big question mark during Duterte's rule because he is check this out, mercurial sort of gentleman.
Ooh, a little trickster.
Yes. Whose humors are are want to go askew at the slightest breeze. He's got
Well, check
BPD.
this. Mm-hmm. Wait. Let me see if I can get this
Interesting.
right.
No, that's a good point.
Well, check this. Mercury just went into retrograde.
Bam. Look at that. And that is our political analysis of actually all of Asia. No,
it's true, though.
So, I mean, there is, of course, Philippines is, how it's a bunch of islands. Most islands.
An archipelago, if you will.
Yeah, but almost all islands in the world are in a body of water. And the body of water that the Philippines is in the Pacific. And in the Pacific, on sort of the left side, if you're looking at a map that's made in the U.S., but like towards Asia, is the South China Sea, where there's a bunch of... You know what? My thing with this, there's a bunch of islands there. I'm going to finish that point before I interrupt myself and give my solution to this. There's a bunch of islands there, and those islands are hotly contested. China has, I got to be real with you. They have the rights to a lot of those islands. I mean, looks like it's in the Chinese fucking zone there. But that is, the Americans do not want that.
No, they don't like that.
They don't like that. And my dad's actually obsessed with these islands, not out of any sort of geopolitical, I guess a little bit, but like I think he's just sort of fascinated because some of these islands aren't even visible during the day because of the tides, but there'll be like a tiny little piece of rock that'll like, poke out of the sea. And the Chinese have built basically like bases on a lot of these. They're extending their footprint into the water, much like Jesus Christ. And there is a sort of, I believe, a desire within the U.S. military hierarchy to basically put our forces back into the Philippines, or if barring that, to really integrate our forces more with theirs, because that would be our launch pad for China, and that would sort of be, okay, you guys have these fucking islands. Well, look, we have this giant, basically huge ally with a military and an air force and a navy right at your fucking doorstep.
Yeah, and that was what was so key, right? Because during Duterte's reign, I don't know why I said that. I don't like that.
If the guy's a strong man, we're doing rain.
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those regime posters. They got to stop fucking posting with that. No, but he pulled out of a very key military alliance with the U.S., and this is a big fucking deal. Now he's since like reinstated that, I think, right before his departure. And of course, the Philippines has historically, I mean, that's like what the U.S. is basically always, it was a former colony. They've always owned the U.S., right? I mean, they went to war over it with the Spanish, but they really just bought it from the Spanish.
Yeah. They killed, I think, 200,000 to 1 million Filipinos at the the first years of the 20th century. And then from, I think, like 1901 to about 50, it was pretty much a direct U.S. colony, especially in the early years. And sorry, there's someone with a walkie-talkie outside my room, but I assume it's something to do with the sex hotel. Yeah, I mean, it was basically a directly administered U.S. colony for a while, and then a just regular kind of colony where we had a bunch of people there. Douglas MacArthur was there, and then World War II, occupied by the Japanese for 2 years, and then MacArthur returns, takes over the country again, and then we let them have their little freedom a few years later in return for 10 billion CIA agents coming to the country and killing anybody who wanted actual independence. And Marcos was a strong ally during that period, and during that period, actually, contributed troops to the Vietnam War. But it is a relationship that has been very, very, very close. We had a ton of military bases there, total impunity for our troops there, and due to popular demand in the Philippines, those bases were eventually kicked out. And now I think there's several parties that are regretting that deal. So, I mean, for a while, it looked like Duterte really was like, I mean, he's really tried to play China and America off each other, which is, his right to do. But so there actually was a pretty large military exercise over there in 2021 with I think around 8,000 U.S. troops, doing combined exercises. I'll call them Estonia style exercises. And there are, I think, in that country, quite a few U.S. advisors on how to fight the various rebel factions that are at work within the country. And so, of course, the CIA is also very present. But it is Duterte is I mean, he was all over the place. And so I think with BongBong coming in, I'm assuming, I mean, he's not allowed to come to the U.S., actually. Because he didn't pay a large settlement that he owed to victims that he was ordered to in court. And so he's actually legally barred from entering the United States. I'm kind of genuinely curious to see how that's going to play out. I mean, he hasn't made very bellicose statements.
But maybe that's what Sarah's for, right? I mean, this is what's so interesting to me is that, because you and I were talking about this last night when we were talking about the episode, was that, he basically ran on, you called it vibes, which I want you to explain. But also, like, I mean, he hasn't really run on any kind of actual, like, policy platform, or he hasn't really said anything about what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he's supposed to be kind of like the vibe leader. And then you have Sarah, who's really going to do kind of more of the nitty-gritty diplomatic and kind of like, real legislative work or whatever. I saw that she's going to be head of the Department of Education, I believe, which is a little scary.
Yeah.
Considering, how hollowed out education in the Philippines is. But yeah, you said that BongBong basically ran on vibes. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's very difficult to find out anything to do with BongBong Marcos's actual platform. Like, if you even Google like BongBong Marcos policies, you will find next to nothing. Like, literally, it is pretty difficult to find any sort of detailed policy proposal. And listen, you guys know me. Listen out there. Not a policy guy. I do think that, I'm like, you rule by diktat, except from a left-wing type perspective. But it's really, I mean, there's almost nothing out there. His commercials aren't about like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to build this. I'm going to do this. It's like the last one I watched was a song and then a girl being like, this is our new future. And then that was basically it. There was nothing whatsoever in there. Not even like a strong like message. I couldn't understand what was going on. But his whole thing with the unity with Sara Duterte, I mean, her father, the current president, has literally accused BongBong of being a drug addict. Because I gotta say, you watch videos of the man, he's tweaking. He goes,
really?
The jaw thing that tweakers do?
Yeah.
He does the jaw thing. I don't know if he's actually is, but he does the jaw thing.
The first president to be elected on ketamine.
He's
just in a K-hole all the time.
Yeah, he's like, oh, actually, I can't go to work today. I'm actually, I'm in the Lower East Side. I'll get there eventually. No, but he Duterte was like really just against him at certain points, and then they made some kind of fucking deal. I'm sure there was a lot of money in there. And after that, it became all unity, all good vibes. We need these families in there, and we need to just all chill out. And why don't we let history take its course? And that's been a big thing. One of the big, I guess, detractions you could make against BongBong Marcos is the fact that his father was the dictator of the country and stole billions of dollars from it. And what BongBong Marcos would like you to have you believe is that, like, actually, it's all chill. Stop being such a bitch. And, like, I didn't, he did that shit. He did the good stuff, but all the bad stuff is fake, and you shouldn't pay attention to it. And it's I gotta say, by his use of social media, worked insanely well.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's true that I don't think anyone really knows what he's going to do as president. I was reading, you mentioned the families. This is something we talked to Bonnie about, that the Philippines is basically governed by, 4, 5, 6 different big families. In the sense that they're actually governed in they're governors, right? Like, and then I think it's like there was like 4 of the 5 governor positions are held by like these different like family dynasties that keep electing new members of the families. And I was reading this interview with one of them, Gwen Garcia, who's actually she's the governor of Cebu. Is that how you say it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like I think it's like it's an island where a lot of people go and take pictures for Instagram. Yeah,
it's like a huge tourist. Like, there's a bunch of old like Spanish, I don't know, castles and
like
shit like that
shipwrecks around there. Yeah,
and like water parks, and there's probably casinos. I don't know, but maybe just that kind of situation. But they call her the Iron Woman, which I thought was very like. And she ended up
smelter.
Yeah, she endorsed both Sara and Marcos Jr. BongBong, and her father was part of the opposition to Marcos Sr.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been really kind of crazy to watch like the news kind of come in, because I've read a lot about this, and like a lot of people who were even against Marcos in the 1980s, his father, have actually signed on to BongBong, and I think. It's difficult to really discern why. I think a lot of it has to do with money. He has a lot more money than a lot of Filipinos, including a lot of rich Filipinos. And there's a certain way to dole that out. That'll neutralize an opposition. But yeah, Duterte himself was anti-Marcos. I mean, he was part of the student movement, and it's just sort of been like. And lest we forget, the population of the country did engage in a popular revolution against his father and against the dictatorship. And that same population, although I think it does, bear saying that a lot of the voters, I think the majority of voters actually were not alive during the dictatorship at this point. But a huge amount of people who were alive during the dictatorship and who did oppose the dictatorship have now sort of forgotten or let those memories kind of like fall into a I don't know what to call it, but it's all confused now, and kind of like this historical memory has really faded, right, and been replaced by this like kind of this propaganda about a golden age.
Yeah, I was reading that a lot of the kind of families, these governors, they basically had voted for Duterte and kind of like pushed Duterte to implement a kind of like U.S. style federal structure. Because what they wanted was to regionalize everything where they could then control their area, have more control over their areas to impose their own taxes. That's really what it was about. And make kind of like local decisions. And Duterte didn't, even though he said he would. And I think that a lot of this support is in the hopes that BongBong will actually go forward with that, which would only further entrench these families' powers, right? We talked about with Bonnie the kind of like, the Philippines, even especially post-revolution, but it's pretty much stuck in this kind of like feudalistic, capitalist stage of development. They haven't fully progressed into kind of like a national capitalist development.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is like really for real semi-feudal. Like there are actual like large landlords, and there's like tenant farmers, and like
Yeah.
it's. I mean, I think 75% of the population are peasants, which I think bears because a lot of the politics kind of go down in the big cities or in the provincial capitals. But I mean, most of the population, the vast majority, are peasants, and yeah, I mean, it's fuck. I think it was like. I read somewhere, oh Christ, I'm probably going to get the numbers mixed around, but it's like a fifth of congressional seats are now controlled by 4 families.
Yeah,
Like,
that sounds right.
It's totally absurd. I mean, 267, I'm saying that off the top of the head, no notes, but I think that's the right number. A family is actually control like something like 80% of the national positions in the country, which is so crazy. And it's like, yeah, like what you say, but the federalism is like, I mean, I think people who might not have otherwise supported him probably, or who maybe would, but you know, it's really just like trying to extract this big favor so that they can kind of rule their mini fiefdoms much more directly.
Yeah. I mean, and there's a shit ton of corruption. I mean, the persistent poverty and the massive inequality are just, you know, it's really obscene. I think it's like it's like 25% of Filipinos live below the poverty line, which there means about $200 a month for a family of 5. That would be the poverty line in the Philippines. And that's a quarter of the country. And, you know, to bring it back to the election, I think a lot of the people see, I mean, I don't think that it really was an election solely. I mean, it's not like there was really anyone running on these economic problems, but the kind of people's power movement lost a lot of legitimacy in their failure to really erase these kind of gaps in inequality, right? And now, I mean, the situation with the Filipino economy is, it's interesting. It's had one of the better recoveries of, you know, in Asia since COVID, but it has rapidly rising, and I think one of the fastest rising rates of inflation, which just means that people are getting, you know, poorer and poorer as their money is worth less and less. And with, you know, global food prices rising, it's going to get even harder. In general, the economy, you know, it relies so much on remittances, and that it's, you know, we talked about this before, but its biggest export is labor, right?
Oh yeah, nurses especially. Yeah,
nurses, nannies to fucking Shanghai and Beijing and Singapore and, you know,
Kuwait.
Call centers are huge, right?
Yeah.
And also, you know, construction workers to the Middle East. So there's still those traditional kind of industries like farming and fishing, but really it's the remittances that bring a lot to the national economy.
So that, yeah, the issue with overseas workers has actually been a huge problem over there during COVID, because a lot of people had to come home, and so they go back to the Philippines and they're forced to be subsistence farmers, essentially, like people who had been nannies or whatever in Singapore, like you said, now have to live kind of on the outskirts of big cities and like farm just to literally to eat. It's been a huge problem, and Duterte has sort of made a lot of he was tried to stand up for them in some ways, or has made rhetoric about standing up for them in some ways. But like BongBong Marcos is so even more further removed than Duterte from any of that. That I have no idea what the situation is going to be. I could see, God, if Brock Pierce, I'm sure, is fucking rubbing his little hands together, thinking maybe I can get them to adopt this. Yeah, it's. I mean, the economic situation, despite the recovery, I think it's pretty dire. There's also been the issue of schools have been closed over there for 2 years now
because of COVID.
Because of COVID, yeah.
Oh man,
2 full years of school closures, colleges, all schools, and so, you know, that's also going to set a lot of people back pretty far, because the internet is not great over there. You know, I think it's got the highest social media use, I think, in the world of any country, but I think it's got some of the worst internet in all of Asia. And so it is, which is a really strange sort of combination. Oh, it's like it got the least, I think, coverage of the internet. But yeah, I mean, it is a country that has been looted. I mean, $10 billion in the 1980s would have gone a long way. Now, like you said, I think because of the failures of the liberal opposition to him, of the sort of like the EDSA, the bloc the people who overthrew him in the 1980s, their failure to actually really bring many reforms to the table has really led to this point. And I think this election was really, his next opponent was Lenny Robredo. I don't even know if we would mention her at this point, but it was a very Hillary
Not a lot
Clinton-esque.
to, not a lot to mention there.
There was a lot of 2016 type slogans. This sort of very loving kind of let's go get him. This bad guy campaign. It just totally fell flat in the face of BongBong and Sara Unitine.
Yeah, it's a big year for elections, right? We just had the French election, where we watched with bated breath Monsieur Macron take it again, which obviously is going to happen.
We watched with bated breath as the snails
Oh my God.
into my mouth.
Macron is anti-gourmand. He's the most non-gourmand French person I've ever seen in my life.
He's banned ultra veal.
This is a different gourmand voice.
Yeah, my throat's all sore.
Oh.
He's banned ultra veal.
No, I think that's different too.
What-
The traveling gourmand.
The traveling. No, wait here. I've locked
there
into it. Yes, my problems with Macron. No, that's not right either. Fuck, dude. Gourmand. All right.
Dude, what if we lost the gourmand?
I can't. No, it's very late where I am. The gourmand. Frankly, I'm not hungry.
There it is. But it's also there's the Brazilian election also in the fall in October, which will be a big election as Lula is running against Bolsonaro. And there's not to compare the two with the Philippines, but there is a similar dynamic where the failures of the PT, which are numerous and vast, has sort of enabled as basically, it's the same story throughout Europe, right? The kind of collapse of legitimacy of the liberal, socialist, liberal, however you want to say it, social democratic parties post-Cold War has really, has not done anyone any favors on the left.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I think there's also some similarities, a lot of similarities between Bolsonaro and Duterte. Or Duterte, again, wow, sleepy boy, sleepy little guy podcasting here. Bolsonaro and BBM. I think there's a lot of similarities between them too. Not the least of which is being like, hey, remember martial law? Kind of rocked, right? All right. Well, let's.
Brace.
I'm so tired.
I know. You're in space time.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie? What's the movie with Sandra Bullock where she's like, she's lost in space? She's like, I'm lost in space. Gravity. Thank you.
Gravity?
Yeah, Gravity. That's where you are. You're in a little pod in space, floating around, waiting for George Clooney to reach out.
What's the one where they got the old people and they're like, is that Cocoon?
On the beach?
No, Cocoon, dude. Young Chomsky, I know you fucking know this. Cocoon.
Okay, well, Young Chomsky just chatted a question mark. So.
All right, I'm looking up Cocoon movie. Yes, I think I'm right. Yes, Cocoon. So, listen, Cocoon is a movie about a bunch of old people who get put into cocoons, and I can't remember what the fuck kind of word is cocoon anyways. But
that's a fun word.
I really like that one. But I can't remember exactly what happens in it, but I did see it when I was a kid, and I got to tell you, that shit rocked my world. So I'm in the cocoon right now, and I got to tell you, it's fucking crazy up here. Do you know that we have, where I'm at, we have a Tesla Model 7 here?
Wow. That's how far in the future you are?
It's so crazy. Every time I want to fucking drive 1 to 5 miles, I just toss in a fucking Luna coin, which, by the way, are in abundance here and worth a lot. And my little NFT comes up on the screen, and I just fucking zoom down the street. Bam, hit a person. Bam, hit a person. Bam, hit a person. I've killed probably 300 dogs in the past week just in my fucking Tesla Model 7 in Cocoon, where I live now. My name is Brace.
I'm Liz. We are, of course, as always, joined by producer Young Chomsky, and this has been TrueAnon. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein.